Hello, everybody. November, what is it even? November 8th. As you can tell, it's really cool in Vermont today. And I am really excited to be talking to you about factors that influence your food intake. Now, if you've seen some of my other live events, you'll notice that I do talk a bit about it. I sprinkle it into most everything I talk about. And we will go into new things today, but what I really am so excited, like 6 years in the making, over 50 people, the Food Coach Academy is going live January 3rd, 2024. And I can't be more thrilled. And there's a link there for you. You can start purchasing it, pre-purchase next week. But what I want to tell you about this is, and this is going to be important because I designed this for people that already know how to cook, or they already know about nutrition, or they don't know any of it. That's the trick. I can speak to a lot of different people at the same time and they all feel heard. So if you already know how to cook, or if you already know about nutrition, the Food Coach Academy is still for you, because what is lacking in our food system today is taking all that information and that skill and delivering it in a way that you can create behavior change that changes for life. It's not just, I'm going to change my diet this week and then it's going to be too hard and I'm going to stop what I'm doing. So there is a link there, and I want to go into this a little bit. So I'm a chef, I have a doctorate in nutrition. What we don't know is that I have a certification in value-based medicine. And so I've been following the world of medicine for about 30 years now, and it's not in good shape. It wasn't in good shape a while ago, and post-COVID, it's really in bad shape. But we're far enough along post-COVID that I see the government starting to pay attention again to preventive methods. How do we prevent disease through food? And so the Biden-Harris administration created this initiative to stop hunger, which I really, really applaud. And they brought together about 12 NIH centers, and I might have talked about before, Dr. Schwartz was like, okay, this is what we need to do for food is medicine. And by the way, food is medicine is just an update to culinary medicine. What we really need to do is send meals to people. And so I wrote a letter because I was really upset about that, because I don't think that should be the focus on food is medicine. And I think it's being taken too seriously as medicine and less about food, which we've all been cooking for what? A million years. That's right, people. And so now the American Heart Association came out with their presidential advisory position statement on food is medicine. And there's a link there in case you want to look at it. And again, what we see is changes that are within the existing system. So yes, absolutely, we need to get food to people, especially those that don't have access to it. 100%, 100%, 100%. But if we look at the data, just because you give people food doesn't mean they know what to do with it. There was a SNAP study that showed that what prevented people from eating vegetables was they didn't know how to cook it to make it delicious, and they didn't know what to do with leftovers. And they specifically do not want to waste money and throw away leftovers. So the solution to that isn't sending them more food. We should be sending them the food that they need, absolutely, but we should be teaching them what to do with the food that we send them. So in the AHA policy statement, they said again, all right, these are what we're going to focus on. And one of them, again, is sending medically tailored meals to individuals. So send medically tailored meal to individuals in a certain time span, so that we're going to send you food if you have diabetes that's specific for diabetes or heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're going to take it away after a while. And then you're left with, who's taught you the skill how to cook? So to me, the missing link in all of this, when I look at it from a nutrition perspective, when I look at it from a preventive health perspective, there's one thing that's been missing for a very long time, and that is learning how to cook and knowing how to cook. So as a chef or a home cook or a nutritionist, what I have developed over the 35 years I've been practicing and studying and learning and speaking and inventing is a modular delivery system. So in the taste and flavor course, you probably knew some of that, but you didn't know how to analyze someone for it. So what does their food palette really look like? Same with the Food Coach Academy. You will learn how to take people on a step-by-step approach to changing their diet based on motivational interviewing. So we already know that if you throw too much at someone at the same time, it's unlikely that they'll be able to sustain that. But if you give them the option to choose which direction they want to go, you're much more successful. And I specifically in the Food Coach Academy did not put in a lot of recipes, although they're part of it. But the basis of all of this is what I call build a meal. So food coaches will learn how to deal with an individual based on their wallet, their palate, and their cultural perspective. So it's a way to bring all of that together. So January 3rd, 2024. Now, let's go into what factors affect food intake. And I want to show you something my son made yesterday because I was noticing his culinary skills were getting pretty bad. He didn't even turn on the pot before he put in the pancake batter with no oil. I had to breathe. And I breathed. And so I was like, okay, tomorrow you're going to make yourself some chocolate chip cookies. Why? Because I wanted him to get familiar with the kitchen again. Not that I'm promoting chocolate chip cookies. These cookies should have made 40. Here we go. 40 cookies. Wowza. He made 5. 5 the size of a plate. But he got familiar with the stove. He understood how to fold. And he learned how to use a beater once again. Done. I've done my job. So when we look at factors that influence our eating and how much we eat and what we eat, we've talked a lot about the food, right? So the taste, the flavor, how familiar you are with it. And we also talked a little bit about individual strategies. So if you're a super taster or you're emotional, that affects what you eat and how you eat. If you exercise, if you're tired, how old you are. And I know there's a question in here about getting older and losing your ability to taste, and I'll go into that in a moment. And then the level above that is we then look at the institutional levels and the social cultural levels. So you might have vending machines in your school that are promoting healthy eating, and you might have a wellness policy. And so that all helps to promote these decisions that are the easier decisions. And the reason I brought up the American Heart Association and the food is medicine, because that is really at the top, the policy making decision. So if we as a policy together as a food tribe can make some noise and have people that are in power understand how important it is to cook, and making that a policy that maybe that's brought back into the schools. Maybe you, when you send the medically tailored meals, you also send videos and supplemental material to teach them how to cook that, so that when you take away the food, you don't take away their ability to eat healthy, because that's just not a nice thing to do to people. So there's a lot of policy. So for instance, if I was to ask you how much of the government subsidies, so how much money did they pay to farmers to grow fruits and vegetables? Less than 1%. The rest is soy, corn, and refined oils. And so what does that mean? There's a heck of a lot of corn, soy, and refined oils that make up most of the processed, ultra processed foods. Sometimes we call it junk food or fast food. And that's what people are eating. So if the policy changed, and let's just say 20 or 30 or 40% of the subsidies went into creating more fruits and vegetables and delivery, we would move that needle to more healthy eating in a big, big way. So lots of factors. They're actually in this book, the part 1, the basics. And there's something called the Eating Motivation Survey. And I'm just going to go over these and then we'll get into the questions. So the Eating Motivation Survey was published in 2012, and they identified 15 individual factors that affect someone's food intake. Liking, habits, you just get into habits. Need and hunger, are you hungry? The health. Some individuals are well attuned to their health, and when we look at data on what people are buying, more and more are choosing healthy food, knowing what fiber is, for example. Convenience has to be convenience, has to be pleasurable. So it has to be based on flavor, which is what the Food Coach Academy is all about. Their traditional eating habits, what's part of their culture or maybe their religion, natural concerns, they want to eat organic or sustainable, sociability, when you spend time eating with others, the more people you're eating around, the more you're going to eat. And also like gender too, right? You're going to eat less if you're a female in a group and more if you're a male in a group. The price of food, how visually appealing it is. If you're eating for weight control, you're trying to regulate your emotions, and a lot of us do this, and your social image. So those are the 15 factors, and it doesn't even get into the higher institutional and policy level. So lots of things influencing what we cook and what people end up eating. And I think that's important. And the reason I'm talking to you, chefs and cooks, is that cook it and they will come. There's a little more to it than that. But just knowing what factors affect someone's choice will help you to be able to improve their diet in a way that really supports them. All right. So now let's get into some questions. And if you have any questions about what I just said, please feel free to add those as well. From a health coach perspective, what are some quick ways and tips we can help patients to create more awareness around the motivators, influences driving their food choices? So I just went through a whole litany of influencers and motivators, and really what has been shown to work both for learning and behavior change is one step at a time. So as a food coach, what you're going to do is you are going to assess someone's diet from a food perspective, not a nutrient perspective, because you're not a nutritionist. And you are going to look at what is their intake of fruit or vegetables or grains. And in each of those intakes, they'll be asking about their barriers, right? So in terms of their barriers, is it they don't know how to cook, they don't know how to shop, they don't have access to it, and you'll find out a lot of information. And then you put on your motivational interviewing hat and you ask the participant, what would you like to focus on? And I like to say to people, because I've been practicing for so many years, it took them a long time to get to where they're at. There is no quick, easy fix. And this isn't like throwing a lot of stuff at an individual. When you practice motivational interviewing, which is a part of this course in all of the food modules, you are basically asking individuals to be the expert in their own lives, because they are, right? They only spend about an hour with you a week, or maybe they spend 20 minutes with their doctor, but they're spending the rest of the time in their own kitchens, in their own communities and environments. And when you give them the space and the time and just let them talk without you having an agenda, you will learn what motivators and influencers are really at the top of their mind. And then you deal with them one by one. And you create what's called a SMART goal, which is creating a goal that is focused on just one thing at a time. And that's how you build awareness. You build awareness through listening, mostly listening, but also inquiring and giving the space for people to go at their own pace and to say what they need to say without any judgment. And to me, that's what is really super important. And what I saw at the Weight and Wellness Center that I developed at Dartmouth Hitchcock was that when people came and saw our clinicians, whether that was a nurse, a dietitian, a physician, they ended up crying because they were asked what it is they needed, as opposed to being told what I think you need. So it's switching that. Less, none, what I think you need. And I'm an expert. I have my ideas, but I'm going to put things in front of you. And then I am going to let you take the lead. All right. There we go. So I hope that happened. That helps, Sally R. If I didn't get to everything you were thinking of, ask another question. All right, Ken, please comment on the relationship between the amount of fiber we eat and our appetite. We don't eat a lot of fiber. Women are supposed to get about 25 grams a day and males 38 grams. And the majority get nowhere near that. It's more around like 15 grams or something. And when you eat fiber as part of your meals, you have an increase in how full you feel at the meal and how full you feel after the meal. And when you like to, sorry, I just got an email from Patrick, but I don't know what that was about. But once you have that fiber in your meals, you eat less after the meals. So this is really important if you're looking at weight control, but also what does fiber come with? This is what I like to teach kids. Okay. What does fiber come with? Fiber comes in fruits, vegetables, and grains. And it comes with a bunch of nutrients and phytonutrients and stuff that's really going to heal us, right? So, what comes along with the fiber? So, always the whole versus the supplement, right? I'm not talking supplements. I don't talk about supplements in the Food Coach Academy. It's not what I'm about or what it's about. Not to say that they don't help, but with fiber, slow and easy wins the race. And when you look at other types of foods like fats and protein and dairy that don't have fiber, a lot of the time what comes with it is unhealthy fats, right? So I like to say that it depends. I tell kids this all the time. Are you going to hang out with a bully on the playground, the fats, or are you going to hang around with your best friend who has your health in mind? And that are the fruits, vegetables, and grains that provide all that fiber. And there's some really good techniques for introducing fiber into someone's diet. And it has been shown, although it's not 100% definitive, nothing really is, but that you can help control, maintain weight, and maybe even lose a little weight with fiber, enough fiber in your diet, as long as it comes along with the fruit, vegetables, and whole grains. Thank you. All right. Kimberly, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting? So, Kimberly, my experts went over this, and through this whole process, we really culled through a lot for the whole Food Coach Academy and the Culinary Medicine textbook, over 3,000 references. So when we look at intermittent fasting, some research suggests it helps, but what they also say is it doesn't work any better than having less calories at your meal. So let me explain that. Kimberly, whatever works for you is going to work for you. I explain weight loss is like a boulder at the top of the hill, right? And there's a lot of ways to get that boulder rolling down the hill, losing weight. There is one thing in common a lot of these have, which is eating less calories. So whether that happens from intermittent fasting or you decrease the amount of one of the macronutrients in your diet, like fat or processed grains, something like that, losing weight. What is even more important is how to keep that weight off, maintaining weight, right? And so intermittent fasting, as long as you're getting enough of your essential nutrients throughout the day and not using, because some people I know, and I'm not saying this to you, but some people like to think, oh, if I just eat one meal a day, I can eat whatever I want and actually not eat healthy food. So if you're intermittent fasting, healthy food needs to be there and a good source of protein to keep you satiated as well. And making sure that you don't become nutritionally deficient in something, right? When we look at the data on weight, actually eating less calories and being a little underweight is related more to long-term health and longevity. But if intermittent fasting is something that you like, there's different ways to do it. You could either not eat on one day a week, or you only eat between certain hours. Whatever works for you. Some people can't do it because they get really lightheaded. They might have, some sort of reactive hypoglycemia or something like that. So if it works for you, you're getting all your nutrition in, then absolutely, as long as it works for you. And then trying to get back to a place where food isn't a chore so much anymore. And if it is for losing weight, that you get to a place where you don't have to think about it so much because you're in a self-loving place. So I hope that helps. All right, Terry, it's an honor to learn from you with an OU. So I think you might be from England or somewhere overseas. Have moved into fullplateliving.org. They have a new program that I'm learning lots from. Looking forward to learning from your event. Thank you for that, Terry. It's always neat when you find something that really, really speaks to you. Again, going back to what I was talking to Kimberly about, there are so many different programs out there, and it's really what works for you. All right, Cynthia, what does the science say about whether food and taste continue to evolve over a person's lifetime? You're losing your desire for sweet as you get older, and fruit wins over chocolate. Oh my goodness. How does gender and age and diet play into all of this? So, when you look at getting older, a whole bunch of things happen, and they're not all bad. So, what is known is that your sense of smell decreases. So, when your sense of smell decreases, what you've learned from taste and flavor is your ability to detect flavor decreases as well. And flavor isn't just about taste, it's also about the mechanoreceptors, if you remember. So, things that are like minty or chilies that are hot or the texture, relying more on those will help you to enjoy your diet more. Now, I wouldn't say you got anything to fix there, Cynthia, because less sweets and more fruit, that's lovely. So I know from the science that a lot of individuals that are in their senior years lose their appetite as well because food doesn't taste as well. And so if that's happening, then I would definitely look into it more and play around more with taste and flavor and the mechanoreceptors. And if it's not, then this is something that happens to us as we get older. And as anything in terms of longevity, eating a healthy, whole foods based diet and getting exercise and loving yourself and de-stressing is all going to be part of keeping well. I don't like change either. All right, Justine, would you agree that many clients will eat spinach exclusively when you ask them to incorporate dark leafy greens? Uh, hmm. I don't know if it's spinach because a lot of people don't like that like dry taste on their tongue. But yes, if I tell them to eat dark leafy greens, then they're going to go to the ones that they know. But I would bet you if you asked your clients if they to list some leafy greens, they might not be able to list them all, most likely. And kale has a good rap and a bad rap, right? So, learning how to cook with kale and make it incredibly flavorful is really important in getting people to eat more dark leafy greens. I think it's intimidating for a lot of individuals to eat these leafy greens because it's either they're not familiar with them or they don't know how to cook them. So, hopefully, you get to teach them how to make some really delicious collard greens and mustard greens and all of those incredible greens as well. In the Food Coach Academy, we actually have a handout that shows people the different colors of vegetables and the varieties within them so that we show it to them to let them know that there's a whole world out there that they might not know about. And your job is to help them learn how to eat it in a way that is super delicious to them. All right. So who do we have here? John. John, what's your opinion of Chat GPTs and Google's Bard when asking the AI cooking questions? John, I have no idea what you're talking about. Um, well, maybe I really don't know what you're talking about. Cooking questions. Well, sometimes I'll go to Alexa. Like the other night, what did I say? Alexa, what's because sometimes I don't remember what the internal temperature of certain meats or fish or whatever is, and I'll ask her that. But that's not AI. I think there's both positive and negatives, but I can't answer that question. I'm really sorry. Linda, the purpose to daily fasting eating window each day does not deal with weight loss. Body needs time to regenerate, clean house. Does not work as well if body is digesting food, dispensing nutrients. Yes, absolutely. Which is why I let people know. I mean, we have an intermittent fasting every night when we go to bed and then we wake up, right? We're breaking the fast. It's breaking the fast. So I do, and I have always been a big believer in like trying to get all your eating in before like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, which some people can't do because they're busy working, and I get that. So I like to work within the person's lifestyle. But yes, our bodies need to totally regenerate and clean house. And um, and to be able to absorb the nutrients and to bring them to all the places in our body that needs them. How do I integrate fermented food into food coaching? Cornelius. Well, it's in the vegetable course, and it's talked about anytime I talk about the microbiome. So I've said before, and I'll repeat it here, is that doing this work for the culinary medicine textbook allowed me to see and dive deep into what the landscape of eating really looks like. What's new, what's not new, and there's a lot that's not new. A lot that's not new. And which is why people want something that's fast and easy and a quick fix, and it's fruits, vegetables, healthful sources of fat, lean sources of protein, and whole grains, and it really hasn't deviated much from that, although you can tweak each one in and of itself. But the microbiome is where it's at, the microbiome. And with the microbiome, those little bacteria and fungi and that live in our gut that have more DNA than we have that really influence our metabolism and influences our health. And we're just at the tippy tip of the iceberg. And fermented foods is a great way to naturally support your microbiome for health. And I personally wish I liked fermented foods more than I did, and it's always been on my lists. I eat a little bit here and there, but we do talk about fermenting foods and how it supports the microbiome. All right, Gloria, can you talk about the how much a person eats? Say something is eating large meals and then grazing all day long. Some foods healthy and some not. Could this be a case of someone not eating enough fiber? Uh, if you were to ask me, which you are, the ping in my head goes, that person is under so much stress and they've lost their connection with food and they're eating to shove stress and emotions and all of that and grazing all day long. And that I start really simply with asking an individual to take 3 breaths before they actually eat something. And then if they can do that, which sounds simple, but it's not for someone who is avoiding, um, it is then asking them to sit down to eat. Now, once you are there and they still are eating more than their body needs, then that's a time to really get to the bottom of it and maybe having a conversation with what is eating them. Uh, Not eating enough fiber, that can cause someone to be hungrier in between meals and at meals. So you eat more and you eat more frequently. But people that are grazing all day long and eating large meals, they're not listening to their gut. Their gut that is saying, I'm full, I'm almost full. They're eating until their gut says, I am so full, I hurt. So that would be my answer to that question. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me today. In December, I am going to talk about how to cook for the holidays without like really sacrificing yourself, how you can maybe be 10% less stressed this holiday season and how you can nourish yourself. And I have some really great recipes on gifts that I love to give people. So I hope to see you in December. And I really hope to see you at the Food Coach Academy because it's going to take a tribe of food warriors to change the health of this planet. All right, everyone, eat well.